An Islamic personality is not a glamorous personality, those who look for glamour, but a personality who does not want recognition. We look around and we call those people superstars who go out for show business, who go out to get popularity by way of their gestures, movements and actions. And when they get an appreciation, they feel they have done a remarkable job. They may be serious actors in a drama, they may be comedians, they may be singers, but we usually call such people superstars. In Islamic understanding, such glamorous life does not qualify to be called as an ideal person. Ideal person is one who does not want to be appreciated, but he works for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, the attitude in life changes. The attitude is not of fighting to get a recognition by a star of valor, but the purpose is to go and fight to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If that brings to you a recognition, no need to worry about it, no need to feel proud over it, but it's only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's blessing who allowed you to be perseverant, who allowed you to go ahead and do a job, and therefore he deserves all kind of praise. This aspect has been so much absorbed in our culture that quite often we behave in our culture without knowing what we are doing. This aspect of discouraging glamour and insisting on humbleness and sincerity is part of Islamic culture. Therefore, the Quran says, those who are more knowledgeable ulama, they have more khashiyah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Does not say they are more proud and they claim they know more than others and they are the only intelligent, scholarly people, all others are naive. They don't know what's happening around. It is just like in a class of 40 students, you will find quite often one or two very smart students. They will pretend they are taking notes from their lecturer. They will pretend they are listening. They will pretend they understand everything. But their mind works negatively. They write jokes, they write couplets, they make comments to each other and think their lecturer is not aware of what's happening in their mind, because they assume they are more knowledgeable than the lecturer, their teacher. That's what Islam wants to discourage, that you should not overestimate yourself and project yourself. Therefore, someone who is more knowledgeable has to be more humble, more polite and more kind, and should not have the arrogance of knowledge. The arrogance of knowledge is perhaps the worst arrogance, and that's why you find Iblis and Shaitan being condemned for his arrogance. He came up and said that he has genetically superiority, that he knows more than any other people, and his arrogance of knowledge and arrogance of genetic superiority ultimately brought him condemnation till day of judgment. It's very interesting if you only think sometime, when you are listening to a very impressive poetry, when you listen to something which motivates you, and without any conscious effort, spontaneously You want to praise the person who has composed that poetry. Visualize you have Iqbal in front of you, and Iqbal reads his poetry, and you are motivated by what he has said. What will be your response? Your response will not be, Iqbal, you are great. The response will be, Subhanallah. It's our culture. Culture which has given us a deep understanding of how to appreciate, not by saying, Iqbal, you are great, but by saying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how great are you that you have made Iqbal say these things. Therefore, it's not a culture, not a personality of arrogance, of smartness, of showing off, of pride, but it's a matter of developing a personality which has not only total commitment, but which has humbleness, politeness, humility as its foundation. The Prophet ﷺ, throughout his life, never for once stood up and said, I know more than everyone. I have answers for everything. He never tried to impose his personality over his companions, to the extent that the Quran had to come and say, when you talk with the Prophet, keep your voices low. When you are walking with him, don't try to take pace ahead of him. Educating companions that don't misuse his humbleness. Don't take his simplicity as naivety. He is simple and kind because he is a model for you, and he wants you to be kind and polite. Therefore, he cannot be arrogant. He cannot do showing off. He cannot claim things which he does not know. In other words, when we talk about Islamic personality, we deal with those aspects which have been very clearly indicated in the Quran, in Sunnah, and have been illustrated by a community, a group of people who were trained, oriented, and brought up by two basic sources of Islam, the Quran and prophetic example. The companions in that sense could be called ideal personalities who were able to develop their personal the personalities in view of what the Quran told them, in view of what the Prophet wanted from them.